Kelly.
Well, hello, Jolene.
Well, hello, Kelly. Okay, I'm good to go. So, okay, you're going to hear a lot of hesitation from me about this book. And the reason being is because this book is intense.
Okay.
I chose the book Blue Ocean Strategy, written by W. Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne. Please correct me, people, if I said that wrong. It's a beautiful French name that I think I pronounced okay. But like I said, it's really intense. It is meaty, and I believe it was written for more experienced entrepreneurs and more experienced CEO types.
Remind us
It
the
was.
name of this book because you haven't said it yet.
Oh, I haven't?
You did last week, but you haven't said it yet
I
today.
swear I did today too. But it's Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh,
It's a
maybe you
beautiful
did.
book.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
it's too early. I've already had coffee. Why am I this spacey? Okay, sorry. Go ahead. Blue Ocean Strategy.
Blue Ocean Strategy. And I love the title and I love the concept. But as I was saying, the book was basically, it was published by Harvard Business School Press, which to me screams it's going to be more profound. And honestly, I think it's just above my level
Pay
of
grade.
yeah. It's a meaty book. I'm not going to lie. More times than I care to admit, I have actually had to reread sections just to really grasp the concept of what they're saying. So I still recommend this book because it's something that I think can be studied and should be studied, and I think it's great.
Yeah,
So
it's funny because sometimes I almost think it's better when a book is like that because, have you ever read a book, and I know you have because we both just did and we're not going to mention it right now, but have you ever read a book that was so common sense or so easy
Basic?
that you just kind of, basic, thank you, that you just kind of wrote it off?
Yeah,
you didn't
like
really
in the
pay
first
attention?
chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean wrote off the whole book, but you just don't pay attention. Whereas,
Yeah.
and I find this in literature as well, even just reading a novel or something. If a book is too simple, okay, this is maybe going to be unpopular opinion time. I don't know. But the first time I tried to read Harry Potter, and I am all about reading versus movies. I just always have been.
Yeah.
I'm not that I don't love the movies too, but I've just always been, more about the books for obvious reasons. The first time I tried to read the first book, I could not get into it. And I thought it was honestly, gosh, this is almost hard to say, but I thought it was dumb. Does that make
You're
sense?
going to get us kicked off the
I
airwaves.
know.
You know
I'm
that, right?
sorry. No, look, it's because of a lot of things, but it's because it was really, really simple. When she wrote that first book, she wrote it for a much younger age. And
Yes.
as an author, she was less mature. Now,
Absolutely, yeah.
Granted, as an imaginer or whatever you want to talk about, she was light years ahead because, we all know now that in the first book, she already had plans for the end of this whole series and everything. So she'd fully imagined the world, but as a writer, she was less mature. And so I just had a really hard time. It just felt kind of beneath me in a way. It wasn't until I saw the first movie that I started to care about the characters, and then I could go back and read the first book and not be bothered by it. And that's as much a me thing as it is a her thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think it totally translates into business books that if something is too basic or too simple or too common sense, it's not that there's no value in it, but I have a tendency to assume that I already know everything, and so I just don't give it the time and attention, Whereas if there's something like you're describing where it's I need a dictionary next to me to read it, or I need to constantly search things on the internet, well, that I'm going to get way more out of because not only am I doing my own research, but I automatically assume, rightly or wrongly, that the people writing this book are way smarter than me. So
Absolutely.
they obviously know, you know what I mean? Like they obviously know things I don't know and I should pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's not always true, but like I feel like it's more often true. Does that make sense?
Maybe on that topic, maybe on that specific topic, they know more than you. But I'm sure there's. But yes, it makes perfect sense. Like for me, when I first started reading Harry Potter, it wasn't that it was basic for me. It was all the made up words, and I struggle with grasping the concept of made up words. And again, I had to reread it to really conceptualize and really understand. And now I'm Potter obsessed. So
Totally.
once those words became, just part of
Language?
my language,
Yeah.
it was just easy to go through. And that's what I found with Blue Ocean Strategy. It is a thick. It's not thick in the sense that it's a big book, but it is
It's heavy.
thick with knowledge, and
Yeah.
it's heavy and it's meaty. And yeah, dictionary.com was my friend reading this book. Because it's not that they're words that I'm unknown to that are like Quidditch. No, it's not a made up word like that, but it's words that are at such a higher level of business than I'm at that I had to research it to find out exactly what I was getting myself into. Now, this book was actually recommended by Marie Forleo when I did B school, like back in 2012.
How did I not know you did B school? I don't think I do that.
Because I am a B school failure.
Oh no.
I wouldn't say I'm a B school failure, but when you look at B school and you look at all of Marie's case studies and Oprah Winfrey and all of these people, you're like, I am nowhere near that. So I didn't feel at the time, back in 2012, I didn't feel that my success level was what it should have been based on what B school shows it's going to be. So I felt like such a failure. And yeah, it was a personal thing.
Sure.
Getting over my own demons, we all have them.
Of course.
But yeah, I did B school. I have all the fun stuff. And honestly, okay, so this is definitely sidetracking, but with B school back then, not sure what it's like now, but back then, man alive, it was so simple. I was surprised at the simplicity of everything she does. She just keeps it so easy. You'd love it because it's just a slideshow and talking and then a couple of PDFs that you fill out and ta-da, you're done the course. And that's simplicity because it's about doing the work. And that's what this book is about, because when she recommended this book, and again, she's at that level where we aspire to be. I don't know if I want to be that big, but you know what I mean? That higher level, and that's why this book is so good. And I recommend, like I said, I recommend this to be read by everybody because it is basically the best marketing book I've ever come across. But because it's so meaty and it's so heavy with knowledge, you're going to get the Joe's Notes version of this book, which is definitely a lot simpler. So the premise of the Blue Ocean Strategy book is that the business universe really consists of two kinds of markets. There's the red ocean and the blue ocean. Keeping it simple. Now, the red ocean basically represents existing industries and markets that we know them in a traditional sense, where the basic rules of competition are clear. It's easy. You strive to outperform your competition and you grab a bigger share of what's on demand. Right?
So like
you grab
corporate
a bigger share of the
America.
market.
Basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what the red ocean is. But the market space is so crowded, and as more and more businesses enter that market space, the competition gets more fierce. And this analogy compares it to sharks in the waters. When there's that many sharks, the water turns red with blood. So they consider the red ocean basically a bloody ocean. It's infested with competition.
Sounds about right.
Fighting for that bigger chunk of the fish is just not always easy, right? And we're all there because right now, if you go online and all the marketing you see, everyone is teaching you how to live and survive and grow your business in the red ocean. Right?
Yeah, it's like little fish in a big pond versus big fish in a little pond, right?
Exactly. And that's what you see online. And that's where this book is different, because what this book is it teaches you and tells you how to go into the blue ocean. and get out of the red ocean. So leave those shark infested waters. The blue open ocean basically represents a vast unknown, right? Where there is no competition, there's no sharks in there because it's a market creating strategy as opposed to a market survival strategy.
Right.
And it's about capturing and creating unknown markets where the demand is there because you created it rather than fought over it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's funny because like as you're saying this, I'm having this feeling like, oh yeah, that would be so awesome to have that, but at the same time it's like the sheer terror of that because then you also have the fact that like as much as we try not to compare, let's be real, we all compare.
Mm-hmm.
We all look at what other people are doing, and sometimes that's a negative and sometimes it's a positive though because we look at what other people in our space are doing for inspiration.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, you know, to kind of go back to the techie world for a second, it's kind of like this phenomenon right now with AI. It's like you don't want somebody else to tell you what to do, but at the same time, it helps not to start with a blank page. And I feel like this blue ocean strategy feels like the blankest page that ever existed. And having to just be so creative, but also so fearless to just dive into this complete unknown. But at the same time, no risk, no reward, right? Like you're going to get so much more reward and so much more fulfillment, I would assume, from truly like being yourself. I mean, it kind of just sounds like ultimate authenticity in a way.
In a way, it does. Now, see, you just kind of touched on something that the book really brings in because the way I explained it, you kind of went to this space of fear on, I don't know what's out there, and I don't know how to survive what's out there and make them want me. But the thing is you're not starting with a blank page. And that's one of the things that the book really teaches you. So that's a great thing about the book is it really it actually shows you how. It provides you the steps in order to make that leap and jump into the blue ocean by creating what they call a strategy canvas. Now, you're never going to be able to create a market for yourself if you don't already know what the market wants and needs. So you do need to compare and analyze your competition. It's period. You have to know what they're doing. But what it teaches you to do is you analyze the competition and where they're performing and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. And then you analyze yourself, where you're performing, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. And then, like, we totally jumped way ahead of what I was about to talk about, but
sorry.
And then that's okay. And then you basically create a line graph of where you are and where they are. And then you fill in the gaps and you kind of go where they're lacking is where you go. And you create that market. So one of the biggest examples that they give in the book, like a case study, I would assume, I don't think that Guy Liberté, another beautiful French name. I don't know if you recognize the name, but you would totally recognize his company. He was a performer who had a job at a factory or something, and the factory went on strike, and he decided he wanted to go back to performing. Now, what kind of a performer was he? He was a circus performer.
Okay.
And the circus at the time was a dying breed.
I feel like I know where you're going with this, but yeah.
Yes. He created his own ocean by creating Cirque du Soleil.
He
merged the circus, which was dying. Nobody wanted to go to the circus anymore. PETA was getting involved, animal cruelty, the acts were getting boring. Yeah, it was just a dying breed. And not only was it a dying breed, there was no scalability, there was nothing for it. And there was how many circus acts that are going to hit your city today? So many back then. And I remember because my mom would take me to the circus all the time. And then I would take my kids. And there was one in every arena on every other weekend during the summer. There are so many. And so he decided to take what was a dying breed and was a shark-filled industry and create his own by merging it with theater and merging it with like opera and music and concert and art and kind of creating his own circus. And now he's like, now look at it. It's Cirque du freaking Soleil.
And it's
right?
amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's, and what did he do? You used to pay $10, like $5 a ticket to go to the circus. Now to see the circus, you're talking hundreds of dollars per ticket because he created a niche market. He created his own ocean. And so, and he did that by analyzing what was going wrong with the circus. Where was it lacking? What was it doing wrong? How can I fill in those gaps? What can I do to make it better? How can I make it stand out? And he totally did it. I mean, come on. And you can see when you look closely, I think I wrote notes here somewhere. Yeah, if you look, there are so many companies out there that kind of did the blue ocean strategy, whether they did it on purpose or not. What they did is created their own market. So you look at
like what more examples?
Yeah, I was gonna say, look at Netflix. It's the first streaming.
Yeah.
Right.
They now it's like every freaking where.
Yeah. And that's just it. I was just watching this thing. They did a study that when you kind of do the blue ocean thing and you tend to make your own market, you tend to make your own demand. And most of these blue ocean companies tend to do really, really well. And then you have anywhere from 10 to 15 years before the market catches up to you, because they cannot just mimic what you've done. Now you think of Netflix as an example. How long did it take before networks went, why are we giving Netflix our shows? We can create our own streaming. Right. It took them almost 10 years. And then you look at Uber is another one. It took, it flipped the taxi industry on its noodle.
Yeah.
And then now there's Uber, now there's Lyft, now there's, so many of them. It depends on where you live, right? But
right.
It took a few years for the industry to catch up and not mimic. And that's the thing, is when you look at the red ocean, everyone's mimicking, but they're fighting to get the same piece of the pie by throwing this in for free, giving extra hours, trading time for money. When you look at the online coaching world, all of those coaches, yes, don't get me wrong, it's saturated. There are tons of coaches. So people are making up niches just to stand out. And they're giving away stuff just to stand out, when really you could find out where everybody is lacking, take those fiercest competitors, analyze them, do this chart. And you know what? I know I didn't mention this to you prior to recording, and because we are recording a little bit of ahead of time, I can mention it now. Our Patreon account, by the way, is going to have a Canvas strategy template in it for all of our members, and that's both the free and paid members. I'm going to make that available on Patreon for everybody. Link in the show notes. Yeah,
nice.
I did the little finger point down there. Because you think of companies like Cirque du Soleil or even Airbnb. Holy crap, Airbnb created its own ocean, right?
Oh, absolutely. The concept of letting somebody just like crash in your house, it was such a weird foreign concept, and now it's like I would almost always rather do that than be in a hotel.
Right? I would. Oh my goodness, the thought of staying in a stranger's house to me was
weird.
No.
Yeah, because it's awkward. It's like, I mean, and I realize they're not always the house that the person lives in, like, full time, so I get that. But yeah, it was like uncomfortable. It's like you feel like, can I ever really feel at home there?
Yeah.
Because, they're gonna judge me later or whatever.
Whatever it might be.
Do they have little cameras? Like, I get so afraid. Our first Airbnb experience, I have to admit, was amazing though, and it got me addicted. We went out to the West Coast and we rented a room inside a woman's home, and she was this old German lady who lived alone, which again, scary to let strangers in your house when you're a little old lady, but she lived alone. And in like, not in the middle of nowhere, but there were very few houses around her. And she had her own chickens, and she made us breakfast from eggs straight from the freaking hen. And she was kind, and I felt like I was visiting like my Nona. It was just the weirdest thing. And then I was addicted.
Well, that's like a true B&B, like not even an Airbnb. That's like a true bed and breakfast kind of situation. That I have never done, like staying in a room when the person is actually still there.
I wasn't expecting her to be there. Boy, were we surprised.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird. I mean, I know it's like a whole industry, it's a whole thing, and I appreciate it, but that to me is still a little weird.
But think about it, right? Like she changed my opinion on the whole concept.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I've had bad Airbnb experiences,
Oh,
and I've
of
never
course. We all do.
stayed in a real bed and breakfast. I've always been a hotel person, but that made everything that threw the industry into a spiral, and they created their own market. And now, 10 years after Airbnb was started, what are you seeing? There's Vibro, there's like all these other little places where people are renting their apartments on Kijiji now. So it's like,
yeah, well, and you can ride share your car.
Yes,
like it's expanded into other areas. And by the way, I have to just back up for a second, and like, I love that you just called it Vibro because
what is it?
It's just VBRO, but I've just never heard anybody call it Vibro before. I love you. You're hilarious.
I don't listen to commercials. I see them. VBRO. Well, that's silly.
Yeah. I know. It's just how there's some things where you say the word and some things where you just read the letters. I don't know. It's just funny.
Okay. I'm going to hide in my hidey hole now.
No, hey, you know what?
In the public.
I could be totally wrong, and maybe it is Vibro, but I've just literally never heard that, so it made me laugh.
My Googling skills will be put to work later today. So, yeah, basically, that is the gist of this book. That, like I said, that's the Joe's Notes. It's the short version of how to do it and why. And it goes deep into numbers. It goes deep into providing value and cost and making sure that you're not, overspending, all these things. Like it is deep. What I like about it is that the book does show you how to create your own blue ocean. And there isn't a market out there. There isn't a business out there that can't create its own blue ocean. As a coach and a business coach and as a photographer, I'm not going to be able to step into my blue ocean and become the next Spanx, you know what I mean? And become the next Netflix or Zoom even. Like I don't anticipate that for me, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen to someone else, right? It's just a matter of what you're doing and what you're providing. If you create your market and you have the right idea and you have the right gumshoe to go for it, then yeah, I think you can be really successful with this kind of marketing strategy as opposed to swimming with the sharks.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like, well, I was just gonna say, I feel like there would be layers, like levels to this too, right? Like, yeah, there's a difference between, like, for your example, as a photographer, especially like wedding photography, I mean, you could go to the extreme of like doing some really unique type of editing on your photos or, something that's very, very different and create your entire ocean, right? Yeah. Or it could be more about the experience that you give your brides. Maybe your photography isn't that avant-garde or different than, what other people get, but the ultimate experience that they get is filling in those gaps of what's lacking in the way other people do it. You know what I mean? So I feel like it doesn't necessarily have to be something completely 100% unique to still be in your own ocean. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It does not have to be 100% unique. It's the experience, it's what you're providing, and it's how you're putting yourself out there and the service you're giving, right? Like so when it comes to photography, I'm going to give you a great example of a friend of mine, actually. I've been shooting for over 20 years, and she came into the industry after me. And she was gung-ho. She was a good photographer, very talented. She created her blue ocean by studying light. Like, it was her bread and butter. It was unreal. She was even, recommending light books to me. Light for me wasn't as big of a deal as was the way I shoot. Yes, well, okay. Photography is literally means paint with light. So when I say light to me wasn't as big of a deal as I had a studio. So I used the lights and I used all of that technical stuff, and I didn't do a lot of natural light shooting. And so I was over learning about lights. I wanted out of the studio. I wanted into the wild. Whereas she was obsessed with lighting and obsessed with it to no avail, that she was constantly using flash and lights and all these things when she didn't need to. But that took her on a path where now she is the number one across the board. I would recommend her all over the world, night photographer. So she just did a wedding this weekend where the Northern Lights were out, and she took her bride on the fly, threw them in a little boat and put them on a little pond, and the Northern Lights are reflecting in the pond, and then you still have the sky with stars, and it's clear and it's beautiful. And so she shoots at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, all the time, but she gets the Milky Way in the shot. I can't do that, but she has become a master of it. And that's her ocean, because that is not a market that people are like, oh, I want pictures with the Northern Lights. Not any photographer can do that.
Yeah.
I can take a ride out and do it, but
you do realize we have to, yeah. Well, you do realize we now have to link to her photos.
Yes,
because
I will most definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I need to see them. And if I was listening to this, I'd be like, hello, I need to see these photos. Yes. So we're going to have to link to her.
I'm going to reach out to her. Her name is Sophia Catherine, and she's in Calgary. So she's very local to me. I'm going to reach out to her and ask her if I can use that image for our Instagram and for our, to push it and to show, because I think when you look at this book and you look at Blue Ocean Strategy and you look at all of its major examples, Uber, Cirque, Airbnb, Netflix, all of these heavy hitters, it's easy. And this is why I was so hesitant at the beginning. I'm like, do I really want to talk about this book? Because am I, at that level? No. But it is easy to create your own ocean and still stay in your niche and not really have to reinvent the wheel in whatever your industry is or whatever your business is. Yeah. You just have to find where everybody else is lacking. And that's what Sophia did. We were all lacking in night shoots because nobody wants to work at 3 o'clock in the bloody morning.
Oh no, you're always racing the sun, always.
Yeah, that's just it. That's always it. And anytime anyone would ask me, what's the advice you would give a young photographer? It used to be follow the light, right?
Yeah.
But she took that advice and went, I'll make my own, right? Like, why would I go according to that light? I'm going to make my own light. And she does it beautifully, and she's extremely talented, and it's scary how good she is. And she's just the most wonderful person ever. Anyway.
Okay. So this is all incredibly interesting. I love this concept of, getting out of that red ocean, but how exactly do you do that? I mean, it sounds so simple, but I have a feeling it's not.
Well, it is, but it isn't. So first, you're going to basically define your current reality. You're going to look at the key attributes of a product or a service that you offer within your industry. You're going to just kind of solely focus on that one aspect. So your main course meal, your big item, your big ticket item that you really want to sell the most, right?
Like your signature offer.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, your signature offer. Look at your signature offer and see what in the industry as a whole is that signature offer providing to your audience. And then you want to take, you want to identify out of your target audience, that segment of customers who are only interested in that signature offer, because this is now your new target audience, just this tiny little portion of everybody, as opposed to everybody. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this is like niching down.
Yeah. And you're going to niche down tight, because from there, you're going to actually, look at what your competitors are doing and seeing what they're offering with the exact same MO, right? You're going to look at exactly with your signature offer, what are they offering that is equivalent? And then you're going to take a peek and see where are they lacking with that offer. And that's where that little graph thing is going to come in, because it's going to go, well, we both offer 1 hour free consultation, but they don't offer a free printout with it or a planner to come with that consultation. So that's what they're lacking. So maybe that's something you offer, right? That's creating your now you have something they don't. Now you have your own blue ocean, and you're going to alter your product to fill in that gap where there is no line in that line graph. It appears bad, because when you're looking at the line graph, you look at the two lines, your line and your competitor line, right? And it's going to go up and down, uppy, downy. Oh, I got a joke about that. I'll tell you later. It's gonna go,
okay.
It's going to go, their line is going to go higher. We offer this, we don't offer that. This is included, that is not included. And yours is going to do the same thing. I offer this, I offer that. This is included, that's not included. And you're going to cross paths. You're not going to, and if you are identical, whoa, that's a big problem. Right? Like if your little ziggy zag is in line with their zigzag, there's a big issue right from the gate.
Well, and you know what? I kind of love that you just said that, because I feel like there's this misconception, and I've had this misconception in the past, so maybe I'm not alone in this. But because we hear all the time, that your audience, your customers aren't buying your products, they're buying into you. Mm-hmm. That gives us this false impression that we can be offering exactly the same thing as someone else, but they're still going to choose us because they love us so much, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's so not really true. You need to use what it is about you that they're going to, quote, love, and infuse that into your offer.
Yeah, so there is a little bit of truth to that, because you can have two equivalent offers, two equivalent companies. And I'm going to hire this person because she's a redhead instead of because of her value or whatever. Because if the offers are the exact same, that's how they're going to decipher who they're going to choose. Whether it's a personality trait, a physical trait. Honestly, I've seen companies where, and we're talking online companies here, not big corporations, but small businesses, solopreneurs, where they're offering the exact same thing as somebody else. However, they're doing their videos in the world's messiest kitchen, and they look like they haven't brushed their hair or changed their clothes in a week.
Or they don't have their stuff together.
Right. So if you cannot get your act together to brush your hair and wash your face for a video, how am I going to entrust you with my hard-earned money to learn something? That is how I feel.
Yeah.
It's a little judgy. I'm not going to lie.
No,
she might know more than the person who spent all the money to get their act together and look professional.
Except how you look, it depends, I guess, on what you're going to them for, right?
Exactly.
If what you're let's just take this a little bit further down the line. And let's say, you're going to this person to have them help you organize your business. Now, in theory, the messiness of their house or the lack of brushing their hair is not relevant to the organization of your business. In theory, they're totally separate. But if she looks like a disorganized person, it makes you think, well, how's she going to know how to organize a business?
Exactly.
So I don't think that's judgy if it correlates to,
if it's relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's just like those, you see a lot of social media managers out there that are just doing everything they're told to, and they're doing it right, putting themselves out there. Let me show you how to do this. I can grow your Instagram following. And they're really putting themselves out there. And then you go to follow them on Instagram and they have 5 followers. Yeah. How are you going to show me to grow my following when I have more than you already? Right?
Yeah.
There's so many things to that, where being the exact same and following everything you read on the internet is not going to bring you success. And you know what, even doing the blue ocean might not bring you success. I'm not going to say it's a 100% you're going to get there. And regardless whether you read this book or read any other book and only follow YouTubers, what it comes down to, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this because the quote is from a book we read we both didn't enjoy, do the work.
What book might that be?
You know, it's funny. You and I were talking earlier about this new book I am reading, which is not really relevant to business at all. And one of the things in this book, it talks about manifestation. And you and I both have the same opinion on manifestation. And I'm not 100% sure if that's something that we're going to put out into the world just yet. But the thing about this, in this other book I'm reading, when it talks about manifestation, she flat out says, come on, guys. Like, really? Are you really going to be able to manifest a ham sandwich in front of you? No, you're going to think, I want a ham sandwich. And so what are you going to do? You're going to go make a ham sandwich. And then, boom, you manifested a ham sandwich. It's all about intent. It's all about ensuring that you're going to do what you need to get to the end goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I got on that topic, but it made me giggle. Okay. Anyways, so you want your blue ocean graph to be opposite zigzaggy of your competitors. Because when you do that, if they're up on one level at one point and you're down at another level on, say, your signature offer on printables, they offer them, you don't, right? So they're going to be up high, you're going to be down low. You want to find something in the middle. And because everyone's either going to get one or they're not going to get one. So where can you fit in that gap that both companies are lacking? And that in there is your blue ocean. So they offer a printable, you don't offer a printable, maybe you're going to offer a video and provide a video that shows them how to do something. You know what I mean? And shows them how to create their own printable, how to create their own journal or whatever it is. The thing is filling in that space, that empty space is the blue ocean. And so when you're doing it that way, you're going to alter your signature offer to fill in that gap. And then again, you're going to do the work to show that you are filling in the gaps that everybody else is missing. And you are the one to be able to provide it for your audience. And that's kind of how you create your blue ocean. So it's a little bit more complicated. And I know I rambled on a little bit, but it's a matter of, looking at your competitors. We talked about that earlier. You want to look at your competitors. You want to see what they're doing. And you want to see what they're lacking. Because if you are not filling in the lacking gap, well, then you're doing exactly what they're doing. And that's the whole point to being in business, is to not do what everybody else is doing and to not try and compete for the exact same people. So
I think it takes away that, because I know I said early on, like, and I still, like, even as you're talking about it now, I still get this feeling of like comparison, because if I'm looking at what they're doing, then I'm thinking about what I'm not doing or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the more that I think about it, it's like, if you're looking at what they're doing, again, with the intent of making your offering better or making your offering different, then it's immediately removing that comparison, because now you're not exactly the same and looking at what they're getting out of it and what you're getting out of it. Because now you're talking to a completely different audience.
Exactly. And that's the whole point. You're creating a whole new audience. You're moving into a whole new blue ocean that is not riddled with sharks, just gnawing away at the new clientele. Right. So it also takes away that imposter syndrome that you're going to have when I first started. You're looking at your competitor or who you feel is a direct competitor, and you're like, well, she's doing this, maybe I should too. That is detrimental. That is what is going to not help you at all. But if you look at it from a different perspective, she's doing this, but she's not offering this, which I think our clients really, really need. You're now setting yourself apart. You're now
it's almost
creating a new audience.
Right. Like, I almost feel like you should, rather than looking at, your competitor and saying, oh, look what they're doing that I'm not doing, it should be more about, look at what we're both doing. Now, what ideas have I had that she's not doing? You know what I'm saying? Because I think, there's a lot of crossover especially in the business coaching world or whatever, because I mean, it's not rocket science. It can't be totally original. There are best practices and things like that. But I think that by looking at the places where you match, and that, you know, rather than comparing to she has, but I don't, it's more like, this is what we both have. Now, what does that inspire me to add? And stop, like, the second you look at what you both have, you stop looking, right?
Yeah, you got to keep going. You've got to find where your lines don't intersect and where your lines are so far apart that you can put in the gap. You can create your own blue ocean.
Yeah, I'm excited for this graph. You need to hurry up and make this for us.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. And yeah, so it is definitely going to be available in the show notes. No need to stress out about it and hunt it down. I'm going to put a real nice simple one. I know I complicate things when I talk, but I'm going to put a really nice simple graph down there for everybody to just download. And our Patreons can also get it in that community too. So our Patreon community is it's all available there as well. I don't know what I was going to say. It is. Why does it feel so early?
I don't know, because I've been up for like 5 hours. So.
Oh, hush puppy. I slept in.
Well, good for you.
I watched TikTok for an hour.
Oh, there you go.
It's been one of those days. Okay, I'm going to tell you my uppy downy. I would love to take credit for this. I would totally love to take credit for this, and I'll put a link in the show notes for this as well. I don't know if you've ever watched Graham Norton, but Robert Downey Jr. and Stephen Fry, who I love, were both on the couch one day, and they were talking. And RDJ goes and announces that his wife is pregnant and they're having a new baby. And Stephen Fry's like, "Oh my God, can you name her Uppy?" And everyone looked at him like, "What?" And then he's like, "Yeah, then she'd be an Uppy Downy." I was just like, I'll never forget this for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the look on RDJ's face, he's like, "Why am I on the couch with this person?"
Oh, man.
It's so funny.
That's awesome.
I spend way too much time on TikTok.
Yeah, no, I definitely get sucked into the Graham Norton on YouTube, not TikTok, but I get sucked into those too.
I'll find
He's just got such a great like vibe. Like, it's so different than any American talk show like that, you know?
Yes.
The fact that they're all interacting with each other and like literally drinking while they're on camera. They're so relaxed. It's so natural feeling.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite shows for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my Blue Ocean Strategy book. And
I love it.
I do recommend it, and I apologize for the ramblings and the confusion I may have caused. So go read the book. That's all I got to say. And you know what? There's even an updated version called The Blue Ocean Shift, which I have not read yet, but it just talks about making that shift to the blue ocean. So it goes a little further in depth. So maybe I should read that book.
Oh, so more of the how-to, probably.
More of the how-to. Yeah. So that's probably a good recommendation. Follow-up for season 3. I don't know.
I was going to say maybe a future episode we might need to do.